Alright friends, today I'm going to show you how to make really good sounding pop chord progressions, melodies, and a few other things you can do to kind of sauce things up and make it sound more catchy. So let's get into it. So to get started here, I'm just going to use a BPM of like 130. Really just look up a song you like, you can go with that though. So to get started here, let's just talk chords. Now most pop chord progressions are going to be made up of 4 chords. I usually like to just start with the bottom notes and kind of build from there. So something like this will work fine. And then from there, I'm just gonna copy these over. So I was just holding shift and then pulling this with the mouse. And then I'm gonna move it up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what you can do here is you can build major and minor chords. So that's just going up 2 or 3, but you can also do some other things as well. So rather than do that, I'm just gonna put a note on top of here as well. And I'm just going up 2 or 3 spaces. That sounds good. So let's just give this a listen real quick. And so what I did here, rather than building just basic major or minor chords, is I added notes, 2 spaces above, and this is basically just this chord without that note. Same for this one right here. And then over here, these are just basically 6 chords without, the middle note right here. Or the note there. And I like doing this just because it kind of just makes it sound a little bit more dramatic and interesting. And so that's why I did that right there. Now, the next thing that you can kind of do to kind of make these chords even more interesting, first thing you could do is just make some chops. So just go to C and add some cuts right here and just do it at some sort of a rhythm. Just make sure it's in a pattern. So let's try this. So that sounds cool. And then if you don't want to add chops, another thing you can do is kind of just play with the pacing of these. And one thing that usually sounds good for pop beats is doing something like this. You just pull these over. So it just sounds a little bit more dramatic. And also, if you like the sounds that I'm using here today, even though I've only used one, these sounds and all the sounds I'm going to be using here are from my bank Textures, which comes as one-shots and as an analog lap bank. All right, so next thing I like to do with my chords is layering. And since we're using a really plucky sound here, let's try and do a couple of different things. First, I'm going to just take all of this out and we'll just make those the original chords again. And I'm gonna look through this bank as it has a lot of different like textured sounds, which kind of sound cool. And it just makes it so you don't have to add a bunch of effects. Let's see what might sound good when we layer it. Could go really simple like this. So that might be a good contrast because as you notice, the sound is more like a pluck, where this sound is like a softer kind of pad. So it adds kind of like a different dimension. That's always what I try to do when I'm layering or picking out other sounds, is I kind of try to find something that maybe fills up what the other sound is missing. Yeah. Alright, so that sounds perfect. I'm gonna go with that. Now, I do want to show you some other things you can do layering. And so let's just turn this off here and actually just add another sound to copy these chords over, just because these are cool techniques that you can use to add movements and stuff like that if you don't use this kind of chopped up method. So first thing you can do is something like this, where you just take the other chords and have them play halfway through the other one. So let's try and do this. Just pick out another sound for the bank. I almost like this better than the first one, actually. You can even get a little more extreme and have it go like this. So it's the two sounds alternating. They're very similar sounds here, so that's probably why they kind of like work so well together. All right, so I'm using a different set of chords right now. These are just like 7th chords right here, so nothing too crazy. Here's how they sound. So pretty basic chord progression. Now here are some easy ways to add melodies. And one thing you can do, this works sometimes, but it's probably the easiest way to do it, is if you just go to Alt A, you can create an ARP. You kind of just play with these different settings right here, kind of change it up, make them different sizes and whatnot. And I'm using a guitar from the bank as well. But let's just give this one a listen. So that's an option. Some other things you can do is something like this, where we're kind of just following the chords and kind of just creating a pattern really. Let me just play this and I'll kind of break it down better. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm trying to emphasize the points where the guitar is not playing, where you'll hear these notes right here. And then in terms of actually picking out the notes to play here, for the most part, I'm just going over the chords that are already being used because you already know those are going to sound good. So definitely recommend doing that, as that's what a lot of melodies are based off of. In points where you want to kind of create tension, which I didn't really do here, you would maybe want to take a note off of a note that's being used in one of these chords and instead kind of pull it off into a different note on the scale. So let's just do that just for example purposes. Alright, so I like the first one better, so I'm just gonna leave that, but that one sounded cool too. Alright, so now this is where we kind of really elevate things. And what you're gonna wanna do is get some sort of vocal chops. You can use samples, you can use something like Exhale, you know, there's tons of different things you can use. But today I'm going to be using Arcade. And my favorite banks within Arcade are definitely the hooked ones. Like they have some of the best vocal chops and it's just very easy to do. So if you want one free month, feel free to use the link in the description. But really it's kind of just a feeling out process. I definitely recommend just playing with your MIDI keyboard if you have one. Otherwise, just really kind of just add some notes and make sure they're in a pattern. So here's just one example of some vocal chops we could use. And so we can take these vocal chops from this bank right here. And you really don't have to do anything that complicated. This is just basically 4 different chops going throughout. Then you add some sort of a bass line. One key to really add tons of energy to your pop beats is to chop up your bass line like this. The notes I picked out here are just the bottom notes of each of the chords, which are the root notes. And right here, I'm just using the acid bass from my bank. And then just a simple drum loop right here. It gets very, you know, pop, but with a little twist because it's my style, of course. But yeah, just experiments, really no rules to it. Hope this was helpful. Make sure you subscribe and check out this video because honestly, I have even more sauce in this one.